Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to today's asynchronous class. Today we are going to review Unit 6, and I'm going to also tell you about our last 2 weeks of classes. We are finishing soon, so we have to reschedule a few things and start getting ready for the final exam. So let's remember what we did last class first. Last class we studied lessons 2 and 3 from Unit 6. We studied present perfect and we also studied do and did to avoid repetition. So today we are also going to review that unit, Unit 6, in order for you to be ready for Saturday's mini exam. Actually, it's not a mini exam, it's a real exam. Let's talk about that. Today, as I told you, we're going to review Unit 6 and practice for Saturday's exam. So, Saturday's exam, it's like this. I'm going to say this in Spanish so all of us can understand. Just this part will be in Spanish. El sábado 10 de junio, entonces tenemos nuestro último examen del curso. Va a ser un trabajo grupal en clases y también una reflexión individual escrita sobre el trabajo que vamos a realizar en clases. Yo les voy a dar los parámetros para que escriban ese texto. El sábado ese texto lo van a escribir en Drive, entonces yo voy a preparar el documento en Drive con todas las indicaciones para que puedan escribir su texto una vez terminado el trabajo grupal. El trabajo grupal es un escape room, también las instrucciones las voy a dar el sábado, así que necesito que el sábado lleguen muy puntuales a la clase para que no se pierdan las instrucciones y para que puedan ir a trabajar en equipos y no perjudiquen a su equipo. Entonces, este trabajo grupal es un escape room a partir de la unidad 6 que acabamos de estudiar y que vamos a repasar hoy. Todo el escape room va a estar basado en esa unidad y en lo que vamos a repasar hoy. Entonces son una serie de preguntas que ustedes tienen que ir respondiendo para encontrar una clave y poder salir de este escape room. Entonces el trabajo en equipo lo voy a evaluar sobre 5 puntos y obviamente voy a evaluar que también pueden discutir sus problemas, obviamente en inglés. Cuando digo discutir sus problemas me refiero a los problemas relacionados con el escape room, que también pueden encontrar las soluciones de acuerdo a cómo entienden la pregunta, la consigna, cómo entienden los contenidos, etc. Entonces voy a evaluar el trabajo en equipo en cuanto a la comprensión y a la ejecución de la tarea. Esos 5 puntos. Y también voy a evaluar 8 puntos sobre la reflexión escrita del trabajo realizado en clase. Entonces, una vez que tú y tu equipo terminan el escape room, pueden ir a Drive de manera individual, se retiran de la reunión y de manera individual van a escribir una reflexión basada en el trabajo y en el aprendizaje de ese trabajo. Entonces, así va a ser el examen de este sábado 10 de junio, como les digo, basado en la unidad 6 que vamos a repasar hoy. Luego de esto, les quería hablar de las siguientes clases de la siguiente semana. Tengo 2 opciones y por eso ahora necesito que ustedes voten estas opciones. La primera opción es que el martes 13 y el jueves 15 de junio trabajemos en la unidad 7, terminamos la unidad 7 el jueves 15 de junio y el sábado 17 nos vamos directo a un repaso para el examen final y también les doy las reglas para el mismo. Mientras que la semana del 19 al 24 les doy tiempo para que ustedes preparen sus exámenes, los completen y los entreguen. Obviamente la fecha definitiva para la entrega del examen es el 24, pero en este curso yo siempre les doy una semana completa para que ustedes puedan trabajar en sus exámenes. El examen final es un quiz sobre ciertos contenidos que ya a tiempo les voy a avisar cuáles son. Y luego ustedes tienen que grabar un video donde me cuenten su rutina diaria actualmente, cómo es su vida actualmente, y luego que me cuenten hitos de su vida, cómo ha sido su vida hasta este momento. Siempre me preguntan cuál es la duración del video, etcétera. La respuesta siempre es la misma. No tengo tiempo límite para el video. Obviamente sí, no puede ser un video en este nivel de menos de 3 minutos, porque me vas a contar cómo es tu vida ahora en el presente y me vas a contar todo lo que ha pasado en tu vida hasta ahora. Entonces tiene que ser un video sustancioso. Y obviamente ese video se evalúa en base a una rúbrica y va a estar orientado hacia el uso de los tiempos verbales, que ha sido como nuestro tema principal entre todos los otros temas que hemos estado revisando. Entonces, la opción 1, repito, es que el martes 13 y el jueves 15 trabajemos en la unidad 7, la terminamos, y el sábado 17 directamente hacemos un repaso para el examen final y hablamos de las reglas. En la semana del la semana del 19 al 24 se estaría libre entonces para que ustedes en cualquier momento de esa semana entreguen el quiz en Neo y el video. La segunda opción es que el martes 13, el jueves 15 y el sábado 17 trabajemos en la unidad 7. Entonces aquí estaría agregando el sábado 17 para dedicarla a la unidad 7, mientras que el lunes 19 hacemos el repaso para el examen final y hablamos de las reglas, y entonces tendrían menos tiempo para entregar su examen final, porque esas fechas se acotarían desde el 20 al 24. Entonces, la fecha final sigue siendo el 24, pero tendrían menos días para trabajar en ello. Como les acabo de decir, necesito que ahora voten opción 1 u opción 2. Una vez que hayan votado, que todos hayan visto la clase, entonces yo voy a compartir con ustedes los resultados. Votemos entonces. Ok, entonces ya votamos y ahora nos vamos directo a los contenidos de la clase. Vamos a trabajar en la lección 1 de la unidad 6, donde vamos a hacer un versus entre el pasado simple y el pasado perfecto simple. De ahora en adelante, la clase va a ser en inglés. Let's go. Let's remember the past simple. The past simple talks about an action that started and finished in the past. It's over. It's not going on anymore. And that's the key for using the past simple. It's over. Whereas the past perfect simple talks about an action that happened before another action in the past. That's the main difference. Past simple, completed action, it's over. Past perfect simple, it's an action that is not completed, and it's an action that is also completed, but it happened before another action in the past. Let's have a look at the example. When the police arrived, the thief had escaped. When the police arrived, the thief had escaped. So here we are now, in the present. We are here. This is the place where we are standing. And now, what we know is that the police arrived in the past. But before the police arrived, something happened. What happened? The thief had escaped. Right? So now I'm telling you the story that the police arrived, but when the police arrived, something else had happened. The thief had already escaped. right? So that's the idea. We are going back in the past. So the past perfect shows the earlier action and the past simple shows the later action. Earlier action, nope. Later action, this is the past simple. Earlier action, yes, this is the past perfect, right? So remember that. Now in the present, I'm telling you that something happened in the past, but before that, something else happened. That's the idea. That's the main difference. Now we have to practice. All right, so we know the rule and we are going straight to practice. We are going to do this kind of exercises that we usually do, and they are very helpful. I have kept the rules, so if you need some more time to read the rules, take it, they are here. The sentence is this one. After they see the tower, they go to Westminster Abbey. So now you need to find out what happened in the past and what happened before that in the past. This is us now. So let's go to the past and what happened before that action in the past. I'm gonna give you some time so you can finish thinking and answering the question. Something very, very similar is going to happen now. We have the following sentence. He asked me which animals I see in Africa. So here we are. Now I'm telling you this. We need to find out what happened in the past and what happened before that action in the past. So what happened before? He asked me or I saw something in Africa. You need to find out. Take your time to think and answer the question. Now we have another sentence. This is the following. After Columbus discovered America, he returned to Spain. So what happened in the past simple and what happened before the past simple? Remember, this is us now. So something happened. Maybe Columbus discovered America, or maybe he returned to Spain and something happened before that. Now you need to find out what happened before that. Now we have another sentence. Before they move to Liverpool, they sell everything. Here we are now. I'm telling you this story, and you need to find out what happened in the past simple and what happened before that action in the past simple. So what happened before? They moved to Liverpool or they sold everything? Find it out. Now we have another one. After he worked very hard, he fell ill. All right, so here we are now. I'm telling you this in the present. You need to find out that something happened in the past and then find out what happened before that. So what happened before that? He worked or he fell ill? It's your turn to choose. All right, so that has been the review of the past simple and the past perfect simple. Now you can have a clearer picture about that. The only thing that you need to remember is that something happened in the past and before that action, something else happened. So the past perfect simple helps you to organize things in the timeline. It's very useful for when you need to mention what action happened first and which action happened after that. And also, You need to remember that the past simple is more commonly used because it's more useful, and the past perfect simple is only useful when you need to mention that something happened before another action in the past, when it's truly necessary. You cannot overuse the past perfect simple because that would be a mistake. So that's it for unit one, for lesson 1 in unit 6. Now we are moving on to lesson 2. Let's have a look. In lesson 2, we talked about the present perfect simple. So today in this class, we are going to make a versus between the past simple and the present perfect simple. Let's see. The past simple, you already know this, talks about an action that started and finished in the past. It's over, it's completed. Whereas the past perfect simple talks about an action that started in the past and continues to be true in the present. Also, last class, we learned a new use of the present perfect simple. And it is an action that hasn't happened yet, but we hope it will happen soon. So it's an action that is open. It's not completed in the past, it's open, and it could be completed in the future. That's the idea. So the past simple shows a completed action, and this is the present perfect, shows an unfinished action. It's not over, it's not completed yet. So let's have a look at the example. The thief robbed the bank 2 hours ago. That's in the past, that's over. But the police hasn't arrived yet. So what do we have? In the previous examples, when we were practicing the past perfect simple, we were going from the present to the past. Now we are going from the past to the present and leaving open our future expectations. So what happened in the past? The thief robbed the bank. That's over, that's finished. But in the present, now we know that the police hasn't arrived yet. So the action is not finished, it's open. And with this structure, we are showing that we have future expectations that the police will arrive soon. The action is open, it's not completed. If this action was completed, I would say the thief robbed the bank and the police never arrived. That's over, that's in the past, the police never arrived, it's gone. There is no chance for the police to arrive now because the action, it's already over. Whereas in this case, with the present perfect simple, we leave it open. We think that the police can arrive in the future. We just have to wait. So the thief robbed the bank and the police hasn't arrived yet, but it may arrive in the future soon. So that's the difference, all right? With the present perfect simple, you have an action that it's open, it's unfinished, it's not completed yet. Now, I think we are ready to practice. Let's go. We are going to complete similar exercises. I also left this here so you can read it again if you need it, or before answering the question, maybe you can check your understanding. Let's see. We have this sentence. We have it very dry this month, but it a lot this week. Right? So you have to decide which one goes with be and which one goes with rain. Right? So remember, something happened in the past, and another action is open in the future. because we have future expectations about that action. The action is open. So which one is open? Be or rain? You have to decide that now. Now let's go with number 2. I there last year, but I there lately. So again, we have 2 options, be and not be, to be or not to be. So here you have to decide which one it's in the past, it's completed, it's over, and which one is in the present perfect simple, it's open with future expectations. Be or not be? That is the question. Number 3. In 2012, their house in the country yard and to a flat in the city. Right? So here we have sell and move. All right, so decide wisely. Do we have completed actions in the past? Do we have open actions in the present? Perfect, so you have to decide, is this open or is this over? Number 4, we have she as a lawyer since her 8 years. So in this case, I'm going to give you some ways to complete this sentence in the question that I'm going to ask now. So please read carefully all the options and you can choose the correct way to complete this sentence, whereas it is using the past simple or the present perfect. Let's see. And here we have number 5. We at the hotel at about 8 and our friends 2 hours later. So again, you have 2 actions, arrive and meet, and you have to decide if both are in the past simple, if both are in the present perfect, or maybe there is a mix of them. All right, so think about that carefully and try to solve this question. And that has been it. We have now completed the verses between the past simple and the present perfect. You just need to remember that the past simple always talks about an action that is completed, it's finished, is over in the past. Whereas the present perfect simple talks about an action that started in the past, that's true, but it continues to be true in the present, or also an action that is open in the present. It's not over, it's not completed, right? So that is something that you need to pay attention to. Now let's move on to the last part of this mini class, and this is related to the 3rd lesson in Unit 6, which is to do with do and did. And do and did, in this case, are used to replace verbs or verb phrases instead of repeating them. So this is a trick to avoid repetition. These are the examples that we had on the book, and we're going to read them. On TV, DNA samples come back immediately, but in real life, they don't. Fingerprints don't usually lead straight to the criminal, but sometimes they do. Nowadays, we don't need a large DNA sample, but in the old days, we did. All right, so we are paying attention to the verb phrase, and also we are paying attention to the use of do, don't, did, and didn't. Let's see the same examples with some more explanation. On TV, DNA samples come back immediately, but in real life, they don't. So we are avoiding repetitions, okay? Instead of saying on TV, DNA samples come back immediately, but in real life, samples don't come back immediately. Instead of repeating that, I'm just replacing this phrase for don't. That's what I'm doing. Don't avoids repetitions because it replaces the verb phrase. That's the idea. Let's have a look at the second example. Fingerprints don't usually lead straight to the criminal, but sometimes they usually lead to the criminal. Now, it doesn't make sense. Why would you repeat the same verb? So instead of repeating usually and all the things that come after that, we use sometimes and they do. They do replaces lead straight to the criminal. That's the idea. And finally, we have nowadays, we don't need a large DNA sample, but in the old days, we needed a large DNA sample. Now, why would you repeat that phrase? Instead of repeating the same information, you use did. Nowadays, we don't need a large DNA sample, but in the old days, we did. That's it. You're not repeating anything. So remember, for this, you have 4 options. Do as an affirmative verb, don't as a negative auxiliary verb, did as an affirmative, and didn't as a negative, but in the past. All right, so first thing you need to realize is how to use the auxiliary verb in the present or in the past. How can you realize that? Because of the phrase that you are using right before the auxiliary verb. In real life means generally in life. Since it's generally, it has to be in the present simple. It didn't happen in the past. It's in general life, this happens. Or this actually doesn't happen, all right? So that helps you realize whereas it is the past or the present. In the second example, it's a word sometimes that helps us realize we have to use do in the present simple. Because sometimes it's an adverb of frequency, and adverbs of frequency are usually related to the present simple. Finally, the phrase in the old days helps us, realize that we have to use did in the past, right? So in the old days, we did, because we're talking about the past, right? So that is actually what we are doing here. With these auxiliary verbs, we are avoiding repetition of the verb or the verb phrase. That's the idea. That's what we are trying not to repeat. Now, how can you know if you have to use the present or the past with the auxiliary verb? Well, that depends on, as I told you, the phrase that we are using right before that. And now, how do you know if you have to use the affirmative or the the affirmative or the negative form of the auxiliary verb? It depends on your previous sentence. If your previous sentence is in the negative form, like this one, don't, lead, so your auxiliary verb needs to be in the affirmative form. So it works with the opposite. Sentence negative, auxiliary verb, affirmative. And the other way around. This is affirmative, so this is negative. This is negative, this is affirmative. That's how it works, all right? So you need to remember those two rules. First, the phrase is referring to the present or the past, the phrase that comes right before the auxiliary verb. All right, so this phrase. And the second question that you need to ask yourself is the main sentence affirmative or negative? Because my auxiliary verb is going to be the opposite. All right, so this is just for you to know how to avoid repetition in English. And yeah, of course, we have to practice. There is no way we can escape without practicing, because yeah, you know that practice helps you understand these things better. So let's go to the exercises. We have here that you need to complete the sentences using do, don't, does, did, or didn't. Let's go with the first one. Websites track which articles you click on and which you... There you go. What happens here? We don't have a phrase referring to the past. We know, though, that this is affirmative. Yeah, the first sentence is affirmative. And we have the verb in the present simple. So, with that information, you can decide which to write here. Now we have number 2. Our father usually cooks when we go camping, even though our mom mostly at home. All right, so this is kind of tricky. Our father usually, there we have. Then you have the verb also telling you which verb tense is this. So, with that information, you can go and see which is the correct answer here. Let me remind you, we have usually, we have cooks, which tells you the verb tense, and we know that this is affirmative. Let's go now with number 3. Number 3 says, these days, I can't live without coffee. It seems impossible that for so many years. Right, so now I'm gonna give you some options in the question. So you think about it, read it carefully, and try to decide which one is the appropriate way to complete this. Now let's move on to number 4. In number 4, we have the following thing. Most universities ask students to submit test scores, but some... There you go. So now it's time for you to ask yourself the same questions I was asking recently in order to find out the answer. Now let's go with number 5. My boss always asks us to present creative solutions, but she never accepts the ideas when we... So now, again, it's time for you to ask yourself the same questions I was asking previously in order to find out the answer. Let's go with number 6. I studied for 6 hours last night and I'll eat again tonight. So what goes here? Ask yourself the same questions I asked you previously and find out the answer. Now let's go with number 7. Most people ordered burgers, but I'm a vegetarian, right? So decide which one goes here. And finally, number 8. Mrs. Gintner doesn't usually give extensions, but you can try. Sometimes she... Now ask yourself the questions and find out the answer. All right, so that has been all for today's class. What I wanted to do to achieve with this class is just a review of lesson 6 in order to practice for Saturday's exam. So you know that Saturday's exam is going to be about Unit 6, and it's going to be related to the topics that we reviewed today. Make sure to also review the contents before the class. Also remember you need to be on time on Saturday so we can start working together and finish in the right time. If you have any further questions, as always, you can write to me a private message on WhatsApp, and we can discuss whatever doubt you have. Thank you very much for watching this video up to this point, and I'm hoping that it's helpful for you. I'll see you directly on Saturday then. Bye-bye.